A Noological Manual 3. Mytho and Logos, the myth as a different language. Many exaggerated rationalists dismisses myths as superstition and lies. Against this, the question arises whether ownership, democracy, and human rights are not well absurd examples of superstition. It is also worth noting that these rationalists are asking the wrong questions. The myth is rather a different language devoted to express contexts and truths which reason is not able to grasp. The myth's role has in our time been rediscovered by everyone from mass psychologists to ordinary psychologists, political scientists to authors. An example of myth's ability to express things that we instinctively recognize is the old distinction between chaos and cosmos, where chaos is both creative and threatening. The myth of Ragnarok can also be applied to our contemporary situation. It may be noteworthy that the functioning of the world cannot be based solely on common sense, but also requires an element of myth, blood and will. As for the mythical, we touch on another issue, namely traditionalism's overly human sides. This cannot be addressed in a text on modern philosophy, but one should be aware that our time's long-gone materialism not necessarily is anything other than a certain period of superstitious beliefs. Historically thinking, the pros and cons. Marxism is in many ways a flawed worldview. It has, however, two strengths, and this is not least the ability of historical thinking. This switch easily into a primitive historicism with obvious religious overtones, which believes that history is predetermined and moves toward the utopian classless society, endless progressiveness. A historical thinking without historicism, in short, it lacks the big H, without the metaphysical belief in things such as the progress, the history, and the development, is a strength. Then you're constantly aware that we live in a historical reality and try to identify which trends, laws, general feel of the time, and cyclical patterns that are present right now. This to provide optimum conditions to affect it. It makes us realize the attributes and strategies that are currently unusable and which are becoming cutting edge. Marxism's other strong sides, which also have been taken from Hegel, is thinking about totality. The transition from class in itself to class for themselves, and the dialectical thinking. A similar genuine historical and political thinker we find with Carl Schmitt. Nihilism. The Noological Manual could just as easily have been called a manual of nihilism, and it is certainly the case that a differentiated person tends to see through the various lies about and within society itself. The question one should ask oneself, when one aims to influence this society, is of course to what extent we should share those subversive insights, and to what extent we should honestly admit our conformism. Nihilism, however, is a realization, not a lifestyle, because humans aren't capable of present reasoning unconsciously, and the unconscious state of mind is the state of mind us humans live our lives through the majority of the time. I am reluctant to talk about objective reality, but you cannot get away from human biological ontology. Some things in our lives are deeply neurologically rooted and unescapable. Alienation from that through autosuggestion is just viewing a mean as an end, not focusing on if it creates something good, not possessing an end, transcending it to a higher goal. Nihilism is a realization where you later on fill the void it has created with an end, Trying to live as a nihilist leads to apathy and is also perhaps unconsciously unrecognized as intrinsically impossible neurologically. It's something you overcome. Nihilism is nothing you use, the belief that nothing is true and everything is relative. Otherwise, you'll argue against certain phenomena or deny that some phenomena are a reality. It is not nihilism, which by definition means that you deny that all phenomena have no genuine reality. That approach is modified and supplemented with conscious lies. Key is conscious, present reasoning, etc. Something humans lack in the majority of our daily lives. One of the reasons why you have to transcend consciousness to reach the unconscious state of mind in hypnosis. Thus, not a sociological beneficial ideology, not a societal idea, but something one transcends. It's a mere realization.